All right, you guys. So I made a post yesterday about a guru getting arrested, going to jail. Um, and a lot of you called, texted, messaged, commented, shared that post. And I said, you know what? Well, you know what? I think there's an opportunity here to learn. I'll be honest, there's a part of me that doesn't like talking about this stuff because I don't like gossip, things like that. There's another part of me that as a teacher and as a student says, hey, how can we improve as investors here? So for those of you who saw the post, let me jump into, I'm going to give you a brief overview. I want to be quick here, and then I want to give you some lessons on how you can improve as an investor. If you're just nosy and, you know, a type of person who is just looking to, like, tell me the dirt, tell me what's going on. First of all, that's not going to be me. That's not going to be this. That's not going to be the point of this. The first part of the video, though, I am going to go over what I know. The second part of the video, though, I'm going to give you some lessons that you can take and improve. And so if you want to say, hey, whatever this is, I want to take from it and be better, then stick around. That's coming. All right, let's jump in. Let me share my screen really quick and let's get going. All right, so first and foremost, this is from the Department of Justice. This is the press release they put out. This is one of the things that I referenced. I was referencing that when I first learned about this. This is what I saw. Tuesday, December 3rd. Today's Thursday the 5th. 2 days later, they put this out that Nicole Espinosa, the short sale queen, right? And then two of her associates were that they were indicted. So this case has been going on for a while. There's more information that came out saying that this has been going back for a while, this investigation. So this is coming straight from a federal agency, right? And that this is something that was that they were indicted. Indicted does not mean that they were found guilty. We're going to talk about that here in a second. So ultimately, the 2-count indictment charges them with conspiracy to commit wire fraud affecting a financial institution and conspiracy to submit false statements to a federally insured financial institution. All right, so they had been arrested. All right, so technically they may have went to jail if they bonded out. That's how the system works. They may not currently be there. While they're yesterday they went to go appear before court. I do not know the current situation with that. All right, let's talk about what it means. What does it mean, mortgage fraud, Courtney? According to this, right, it says that my understanding was from 2017 to 2021 that Nicole and her associates underneath her company, the Short Sale Queen, that was, you know, what she taught under, that they were stopping foreclosures and they were falsifying proof of fund letters, and they were doctoring basically you know, more the purchase and sale agreement, that they were making adjustments to that. Okay, so and they said they did a ton of business, but in the investigation, my understanding is that only 88 of these were impacted. So with that being said, they were impacted of where they found that they were doing this. So take that for what you will. All right. If convicted, the defendants from each face up to 30 years in federal prison. All right. That's hefty. And this is why it's important that we take a look at this. The case that is being investigated, it is being invested by some federal departments, HUD, VA, FHA. So you know, that they're dealing with this, right? And then ultimately, this is really important. A federal indictment is not evidence of guilt. All defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. I am not saying she is guilty, right? That is the court's role. I am saying, and my big point today is there something we as investors can learn from what went on here? All right, so going on to the next thing, you're saying, hey, who is this? Oh, wrong thing here. You have the short sale queen here. She's based out of Texas. Here is her Instagram. Nicole Espinosa, again, it's her associates were arrested as well. That is, I'm not talking about that. So you can see here her Instagram is now private. And then if you look on her link tree here, she taught about short sales. She had a YouTube channel. That YouTube channel is no longer active. You can see it does not exist. Her website, same thing with her website. It is temporarily under maintenance. And then you could schedule a call with her. If you see here, you could actually, she had students, she did boot camps. And I will tell you, I attended one of her webinars. I think it was a 1 hour webinar. I think I might have paid for it, or it might have been free with an upsell. But I never once joined her or mentorship or things like that. I considered it. But I owned her 2 books. So you see, this is a small one, super small, almost like a pamphlet. But then I also had this one, which is this one. Now this one is I paid every bit of, I think it was like $50 or whatever. It's a textbook, like 354 pages. This thing's a chunker. Both of these are in my library at home. I'm currently in Florida. So that's something that's interesting. All right. Let me figure this part out here. Hold on 1 second. Next part is we have, this is a really important part. This is someone, RJ Bates. She was on a TV show on A&E on zombie house flipping, I believe it was called. And he shared here, if you want to know very specific details, this video, he shares it. RJ was considered a victim in this. He was one of the ones where his purchase and sale agreement and his proof of funds were being doctored by her. He speaks to that there. Obviously they were on the TV show together. He knew her well. I did not go to that for specifics. All right. This is where you can see information. Okay, she taught about short sales. She was on many people's podcasts, different things. She did, the times that I spoke with her was to come speak to my RIA about short sales. She never came and spoke to my RIA that I ran in the suburbs of New Orleans. And again, I own her books and I considered joining her mentorship, never did a deal with her. That's the extent of it. Let's go back to this. All right, guys, here's what's really important. Guys, this is what's important. I'm not here to be the judge and jury. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to say and to share, hey, this is what happened. As someone who stops foreclosures, who helps teach other investors about things like this, we want to say, hey, how can we improve here? How can we do better? So here's what I'm going to say. Consider me uninformed. I am not an attorney. I am not friends or family of Nicole. I am limited in my knowledge. I'm not going to speak to the specifics. That is what court case briefings and the stuff that is playing out in the courtroom is going to share, or the video like with RJ, who was, specifically a member to this situation. Like I said, he was considered by the FBI a victim of this situation. And so you can go listen to his video. I will share that in the show notes, as well as the Department of Justice press release there. And so all right, so look, I'm not going to get into a lot of these details. I was not a party to this. That's not my role here. But look, she taught short sales, right? I had a limited interaction with her. These interactions were in 2018, 2019. And so ultimately, I think it's important. Very few people know the full details, right? And that's for the courts to figure out. But I want to say, you as an investor, as me as someone who stops foreclosures, what can we learn from this? What can we take from this? This is not a chance to throw stones, cast judgment, do any of that. We're not here to play that role. That is not the goal here. Let me give you some concepts though, but I want to give you 20 lessons to take from this. And in doing that, I want to explain a little bit that I know that was happening. And then, hey, how can you be a better investor from this? All right. All right, my video was giving me issue up there, so that's why I pulled off it. All right, guys, let me get back to this. Lessons to take from this. As you guys know, how you do real estate. Pulled this from, I'm here in Tampa attending a conference. This is a shirt that I usually wear. It says how you do real estate matters. I pretty frequently have stuff like that I wear and I talk about. That's my tagline. It's not just how you treat people, but it's the technical, it's the paperwork, it's you know, how you go about doing this. Okay. So I'm going to speak to that being my motto. I think it's important for us to take a look at this and say, hey, how can we avoid stuff like this? And then how can we be a better investor having looked at this? So, all right. Number one, innocent until proven guilty. Yes. I'm not saying she is guilty. I'm not saying she committed mortgage fraud. I am not saying, hey, again, let's go throw stones here. That is not the point here. But a lot of people are saying, when I made that post, they said, Courtney, don't speak on this until, a verdict is decided. I said, man, this is an opportunity here to learn. And at the end of the day, if, she was guilty of, if she was guilty, or if she, like, if she was found guilty, or she was, all charges have been dropped, there's still something to be learned from here. I don't know which way the ball's going to fall. Either way, I think that we're running amiss saying, hey, wait until you have every answer. Again, I'm not saying that any of this or all of this is true. I'm saying there's still more that needs to come out through the courts. There's still things that are happening. But what can we learn from it? Okay. The second thing is, there is legal and illegal. So those are set by laws. And then there is right and wrong, and that is set by moral and ethics, right? And so I think here that there's potentially a situation that this was, number one, a situation between, this is mostly legal and illegal, but it was also a situation right and wrong. That there are things that she did that crossed a line, and that is where the courts came into play here and the law came into play. The two things that were brought up was that she falsified purchase agreements and doctored purchase agreements against other people's knowledge, and not with their approval. And then the other thing is their proof of funds. She was misrepresenting and misusing proof of funds. Same thing. That again, those are things that'll get you quickly into the line, crossing over that line into legal and into, instead of right or wrong, you're in the realm of doing wrong. I think that's important to understand that. The third thing here is the fake proof of funds. This gets talked about on the internet all the time, you guys. People need to cut that out, because this is where going and getting, a proof of funds and sending a, buying something off the internet and saying, hey, with zero intention of that actually being a lender, someone's funds that you're using, whatever, then that right there is wrong, right? I believe at that same point, when you've got to be able to say for yourself, am I acting in the right or am I acting in the wrong? And these are situations when people all the time, investors all the time say, hey, what do I do? How can I get a proof of funds? Can you send me a proof of funds so I can make an offer? I'm not a lender. Are you asking me to partner with you? Right? Like those are things that are important, that when people perpetuate this idea of, I don't care where you get a proof of funds, just submit it and then go figure it out. No, if you're going to submit something, look, things can change. You can submit something with one lender and say, hey, I, halfway through decided that we needed to go a different route. That's different than just saying, throw this thing up that you have zero intention of following through with. Like that's where you get into problems. Falsifying, the next one is falsifying documents, guys. If you are, changing things materially on a document, and again, that little flag should go up if you're like, without people knowing about it and stuff like that, you should say, hey, should I pause? Should I not be doing this? Because again, stepping into that over that line, don't do that. If you're wanting to, I mean, I literally had a real estate agent do this to me with a purchase agreement where they went back, changed it, and it changed the nature of the deal. And if I wanted to, I could turn them in, and it was a whole situation where it got very difficult. The seller begged me to let it rest because of what it would cause, the issues it would cause. And that was a really hard decision for me. Now, because I was like, this person is doing things wrong, and I bet if they're doing here, they're doing in other places, right? All right, let's talk about, making a quick buck. Why would people submit fake proof of funds or, doctor a purchase agreement? Because maybe they see a chance to gain, right? Make a quick buck. And for everyone who's preaching that, hey, you can make money in real estate, look, I get it. Like, I get that. Yeah, people are like, I want to improve my financial situation. I want to make money. But if you're like, hey, let me do it, but let me do it, let me cut corners, let me go do something that is blatantly wrong, and cut these corners and just to make a quick buck, that is very short-sighted. And when you act short-sighted and you do things, you don't stay for the long haul. You don't stay long, for the long haul with this business, with relationships, and then eventually things like the law can catch up to you. And so be very careful from either cutting corners or hanging around people who cut corners or learning from people who cut corners, because that is a slippery slope. Another one here is legally binding agreements. Too many people don't give, our purchase agreements, leases, partnership agreements, different things like this, quitclaim deeds, all of that, the respect and weight that they deserve. That paperwork makes our deals work. But at the same time, when you sign your name to something, you need to understand, you need to read what you're writing, and signing to, and you need to understand that there are consequences or there are responsibilities that you are being tied to in that agreement, and there's consequences if you don't do them. There could potentially be consequences if you don't do them, right? And so don't just go signing stuff willy-nilly. But then also, here's the other thing is, if you are going to, F around, you're going to find out, understand you're dealing with legally binding documents. And you don't want to find yourself on the other end of an investigation or an attorney with you messing with paperwork like this. So respect it, learn how to use it properly, and don't go, again, cutting corners, hang out with people who cut corners with paperwork, or learn from people who cut corners with it. Literally, the allegedly they were accused of taking people's signatures on purchase agreement and copy and pasting, cutting it and putting it on other purchase agreements, and things like that. Again, if you're doing stuff like that, big major red flags. If you're having to do something that you can't do, you couldn't do it at a working space out in the public, but you can do it, in the hidden nature of a room behind a closed door, check yourself. Real consequence. My next point here is that real consequences exist. And so many people get into real estate, and they almost act like this is a game, right? Like, oh yeah, you know what, I'm gonna be the big shot real estate investor, I'm gonna go flash myself on Instagram of like, I'm doing this thing. But you don't realize there's real consequences that exist, that there are laws that govern what can and cannot be done. And that is where you've got to put some respect on this, and you've got to understand what you're doing, and again, the consequences. I think this is important here, that just because your teacher teaches you something and says do XYZ doesn't mean you should go do XYZ. Yes, be a student and learn, but at the same time, if your teacher tells you to go rob a bank, that, hey, you want to learn how to get rich quick, let me go point you to the bank at the corner, and this is how you do it, and then you go do it. Well, when the police catch you, and you're sitting in front of a judge, and they're going to be like, hey, you shouldn't have robbed a bank, they're going to say, but hey, someone on the internet told me that's how I can make money, right? Think about that TikTok trend that just happened, right? Where the Chase, check fraud situation. Again, you've got to critically think and you've got to question things that people tell you because there's real consequences. Look what those people are finding out now. That's important. So my next point to this is that there's no, guru, and understandably, you could label me as that because I've had coaching programs in the past and I do workshops, right? So I've taught people about real estate. I have a radio show back in New Orleans. And I put out content. People could say, Courtney, you're a guru. Look, no guru, no teacher is immune from getting it wrong. Period. Even my teachers who I highly respect, they're not immune from getting it wrong. And so um you need to keep that in mind. You have to be willing to, number one, trust. You can trust, but you have to verify. That is your responsibility, right? Before you take action, you should learn. And that's where it's important to learn from different sources, that it's not just one, echo chamber of all the people who learn from the same people, but learn from outside different sources. So you can maybe have some differences of opinions and different things like that. So that, again, you can critically learn, right? Not just blindly follow, and then make sure that you say, hey, I need to take responsibility for my actions. Okay. But look, no guru is immune to getting this wrong. Even myself, look, truly, I'm not immune to getting something wrong. I do my best to not, right? But like, I'm not immune to it. I'm a imperfect human as well. We all are. Even the best of us, right? But here's something that matters is ethics matter. So when I say, be careful who you learn from matters, what do your teachers say? Do they encourage you to go check them? Do they encourage you to act with integrity, to make right your wrongs, right? Do they encourage you that ethics matter? Like all these things, big deal, you guys. Like that is a high priority for me, because some people, all they teach is how much money you can make. And then some people say, hey, money is not the only objective here. Doing right, doing well by others is an objective. Those things matter to me. So understand that, you can't just, stand in front of a judge and say, well, but TikTok on YouTube and my teacher told me to do this. This goes to my next point, that you need to understand your craft. This is why I read books. I learn and from different teachers, is that by learning this craft, again, that goes to being able to kind of trust but verify. Don't be afraid to make friends with attorneys. Ask them for their opinions on things, right? Stuff like that. Like that's important. Um, you got to be careful who you associate with. But none of us are immune. RJ in his video, again, he speaks personally from this situation. None of us are immune from who we associate ourselves with that going sour. And he said he never expected this from her, right? And so there's a level there that be mindful of who you spend time with. Again, you turn into the 5 people you spend the most time with. Take a look at that. What path are they on? What do they value? What do they preach? And do their actions line up with their words? You're never 100% safe there. It's just hard. I want to say this about the creative finance world. A lot of people in the creative, especially the hyper creative finance world, is that, they like to live in the gray area. And look, here's the thing is, the other night I was at a meeting, and a creative finance, home to creative finance investors were talking, and some things that were suggested, I was like, I don't know. Like, again, consider me uninformed. I'm not an attorney. Consider me, not an expert, but like, I heard some things. I'm like, man, I don't even know if that's legal. Like, I don't know if you can do that. You should do that, right? And I think people can be well-intended sometimes, or some people don't care. And so you've got to be mindful, right? So just because you heard it said somewhere, again, you've got to take your own responsibility and accountability that you need to go check things out. So especially the creative world, you got to be careful. Maybe you're saying, Courtney, but I don't have a proof of funds. Are you saying I can't do deals? You can't, what? look, if you're like, hey, I'm lacking, don't go cut a corner and do something wrong or illegal. Improve your skills, fill that lack, fill that void. Say, maybe I can learn how to partner with people who have the money and give them a piece of the deal so that they can provide the proof of funds and the money for the deal in this. Or go learn about different lenders, hard money lenders, private money lenders, institutions, different things like that, and say, what is their process to get a proper proof of funds, right? And so if you don't have those things, right, then what you need to be able to do is look, at the end of the day, understand when you're not at a position where you can do that deal ethically, morally, and legally, right? And so that's important. The other thing with that is that you've got to realize that the deals you do today are a direct reflection of your mindset and your skill set, but also the deals you don't do are a direct reflection of your skill set and your mindset. So understand boundaries. Look, are you going to push the boundaries just because you're not ready for something? That is where you can get in trouble. Some people, when I made that post on Facebook about this yesterday, a lot of some conversation turned to wholesaling, because there was a presumption here that she was not. Some people presume she was wholesaling these short sales, when my understanding is she was acting as an agent, representing the seller in the transaction. And so when that comes down, guys, to it, look, I'm not going to say, hey, like, let's jump in this whole conversation around wholesaling and things like that. I believe, like, just like every other industry, that there are good faith actors and bad faith actors, and the wholesaling world gets a lot of crap thrown on it for the bad faith actors and people who don't do it right. But there are absolutely people who do it right. There are people who help people with it. There are people who make a living having a reputable company doing it. If you do not believe that, I believe you have not been introduced to one properly. I'm happy to introduce you to some that do it right. I want to encourage you to stay educated. For people who are like, hey, I learned from someone, then I took a long break and didn't attend conferences, didn't learn from anyone, didn't listen to podcasts, didn't read books, didn't, insert your form of learning for 10 years. The reason why this is really important is, like, information can grow stale. And so what was once legal can then turn illegal, right? And so, like, that stuff is important to you being able to do good business. Um, you know, this is one of the reasons why I continue to go to 6 to 10 conferences a year. Like, I'm in, Tampa this weekend doing that, because I want to keep, my act sharp. I want to make sure that I'm, staying informed of things. And so that's something that you can do for yourself so you can do good business. Ultimately, I want to say this, like, don't be afraid to question things. I don't think questioning things is wrong. And I think that was some of the impression I got on this was like, hey, don't make a video about this yet. She hasn't been, convicted. Because I'm not saying that this video is a be all about her conviction. This is saying, hey, if I ended up in jail, right? Or let me say this, arrested, you can go to jail and be bonded out and not be, for example, an inmate just in there, convicted. But if I were arrested and being investigated, I would want you to question. Hell, I don't even have to do that. Question me now. Like, there's a level there that, like, it is not wrong to question something. I think questioning has gotten a bad light. Now, at the end of the day, it needs to be productive. It needs to be effective. It needs to be to turn to something good. There needs to be, an end to it that's, a purpose to it, right? And so this is not me being cynical. This is not me being judgmental of Nicole and her associates. It's me saying, hey, how can we be better investors? What can we learn from this? And the reason why I think this is really important is because one of the biggest issues is that, there is the difference between right and wrong. Like, doing something you should not be doing, right? Like, that is something you should have some character and fortitude and internal morality to be able to navigate those things, right? When you're overstepping the line there. But, like, there's also a level that, like, in the real estate world, because there's so many laws and states and federal and different things, It can be hard to know fully what is right and what is wrong in the sense of legal and illegal. And so I cannot sit here and tell you all the rules, right? Like all the laws. So things like this are important to learn so you can say, hey, how do I know if I'm coloring in the lines, if I'm, doing what is legal, right? And so part of this, by questioning this, even if she was completely exonerated of all charges, could this not be a case study in the same way that when a deal goes bad, you can learn from it so you don't have to, repeat that mistake? So this is what I see this as, right? Is look, obviously, if someone is out there and they're taking a document and they are manipulating it, that is a big red flag, right? But what are some other things, right? It's the idea of the simple slippery slope of that proof of funds that you have no intention of using that lender, right? Or it's, you don't know where it's come from, you're just downloading it, or someone sent it to you, you have no idea where it's from. Like that right there, guys, is a big deal. But question things, question your teachers, question what you hear on the internet. Don't take anything as gospel, investigate it, understand it, send it for feedback from more experienced folks. That's not gospel, right? Like but understand this is like, hey, understand that, the scary part here that I think is a lot of people get into real estate to improve their situation. Again, I talk about this, but you ultimately want to say, hey, I need to learn from situations like this because I mean, um, there are some heavy consequences being dealt here, potentially 30 years in federal prison. That is a big deal. You don't want your venture towards financial freedom, financial independence, towards improving your financial situation, to get you to a place where you're being taken from your family, right? And so that is why it's important to not cross boundaries of those, legal and illegal, and to do your best to educate yourself. And unfortunately, one of the ways you do that is by case studies of what people have gotten in trouble for, right? Um, and I want to encourage you, if anything, to self-reflect here. Say, okay, hey, is there anything when you see, like, for example, a real estate deal go bad, is there anything that I can learn from that so I can look at the deals that I'm doing and avoid, doing that myself? Here, I would say, hey, is there anything that you are, any smell of this in your business, in your practice now? And say, hey, how can you self-reflect? And how can you say, how can this make me a better investor, a better business person, and a better human? How can I learn from this, right? And then, when it comes to ethics, some people, and I think this is difficult. I just had a conversation. I'm going to release it on my podcast here soon with an attorney. And ultimately, we talked about a subject to deal that went wrong and how someone, you know, this investor was basically screwing the owner, screwing the people involved. And so it turned into a conversation around ethics. And here's the hard part. Ethics are hard to talk about. And because it's like, do I want to invite regulation, more government? The libertarian me says, no, I don't, I'm not trying to police Nicole or other people. That's not the point of this video. But there's a point though, that it's um, like, how do you encourage ethics? How do you deal with bad faith actors in the industry? Right? There's people in mine market in New Orleans and in Mississippi that have been bad faith actors. As a, RIA meetup host for many years, I had to deal with those folks who, showing up with bad intent, and had a history of defrauding people, and I had to ban them from attending the meetings. People who were convicted of felonies of fraud and wanted to get back into, got out of jail and wanted to get back into the industry. I was like, no, you've got to stay away, man. You might be a changed person, but go be a changed person in a different industry and in a new city. You know what I mean? Like, and who am I to say that? Well, at that point, it was with the meetup, right? I felt like I had to protect that group, right? But I no longer run that. I pass it off. Cole Fricke runs it now, but like with my content, right? With the people that I teach at my workshops that I do throughout the year, there's a level here that um I do my best to encourage you toward ethics and a way toward that. But at the same time, it's what is a conversation about ethics if we just turn a blind eye to bad faith actors? And again, I don't know Nicole. I was not personally involved in any of this or personally impacted by this, but I think the conversation in the industry needs to be around. You can't just be like, oh, someone, maybe got indicted, and whatever the outcome of this turns into, you can't just say, oh, well, just another one, that thing happens, I'm just gonna, move on. The reality here is we've got to say, hey, as an industry, we've got to get better. We've got to call this stuff out. We've got to talk about it. I'm not saying go throw stones. I'm not saying be slanderous. I'm saying we've got to improve as an industry, because it's not like we have an ethics board that can regulate us. She was, my understanding, a licensed realtor. And so there is an ethics board in that degree that's separate, but like we as investors, right? And so I don't know the answer to ethics in the real estate investing world. I don't know. Like, I don't know the answer to that. I think that's a very big, why is the sky blue question. But all I know is just to encourage those within my sphere, to do as best as you can, be best informed, and to do good by the people who come across from you, right? And so that's my hope with this video. And then my last tip or lesson here is to pray for discernment and to ask for grace. Because none of us are perfect. We're all human. And so we need grace because we're eventually going to get it wrong. But on the other hand, pray for discernment because, we're all attempting to be students. We're all attempting to learn. And let's pray for discernment so that we may not be led astray in doing things that we shouldn't be doing, right? Grace for when we get confused and go astray, and that we can get back on the path and correct our wrongs, right? Like that is what I want to encourage you to do, is to pray for discernment and ask for grace. At the end of this, in those comments, a lot of people, again, they comment on that post. And so in the show notes, I'm going to put that news release. I'm going to put RJ's video because I believe that was important. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put, what I put in the, on that post that caused so much of this, conversations. I mean, so many phone calls, so many texts, so many, even here in Tampa, people are saying, hey, I've got questions, right? But here were some comments. I just want to end on some of these. Lee, she said, mortgage fraud is no joke. Neither are the consequences. I make sure I give ethical, sound advice to the best of my experience and knowledge. Amen to that, Lee, because to the best of my knowledge and best of my experience, I want to give you guys the best ethical advice that I can, but knowing that I may miss the mark at some point, right? But look, mortgage fraud is no joke. And so be very mindful here. Be very mindful, the things that you are doing, because it's no joke, right? Consequences are real. Elisa said, this is scary. I wonder if they really did not realize they were committed fraud and thought they were just working around loopholes. Again, those gray areas, got to be careful with them, guys. I believe that, from what we're reading, that it was done on purpose. I cannot confirm nor deny. That's what it sounds like. So very scary how we average people can learn how to do business in real estate investing from people who are pros and successful. But we could actually be unknowingly learning and duplicating fraudulent practice. This is my whole point here. It's like, if anything, she had two books. Nicole had these two books and she taught classes and stuff. I don't think, and it's not aware to my knowledge that this is what she was teaching. The one webinar I took, right? The sections of her books, I read one of them, the little small one, all the way through. The textbook, I read sections of it. I do not recall any of this. If I would have read something so blatant as go doctor a proof of funds letter, I would have thrown out that book and moved on from it, right? Like, but I don't believe this is necessarily what she taught. This could be a case where what she taught and what she did may not have lined up, right? And so I think Lisa makes a very important distinction here. Is it's like, it's scary to think that we could be learning and could be led astray. And that's where, again, you've got to take some personal responsibility here and say, hey, again, how can I get out of the echo chamber? How can I learn from more than one place, right? And to do it to the best of my ability. And this is where I have some law books in my study. I think that's an extreme, but I don't think average Joes need that. But like, I make friends with attorneys. I'm proud that my podcast, which has like 35 episodes, a good bit of them are from conversations with attorneys. I think there needs to be conversations where, attorneys are imperfect too, right? Gurus, right? People who teach, pros, professionals, they can be imperfect too. But doing your best to learn, right? If everyone that you learn from is just like everything is perfect in real estate, nothing can go wrong, like again, that is just asking for the other end to fall out for you. I did find this that Greg said that was somewhat funny. He says, I'm the self-proclaimed king of not going to jail for fraud guy. I think that's a great aspiration. Might not be the biggest thing on my vision board, but I think that that's a fair assessment. And then someone made this comment, and I felt like it was important enough for me to call it out. Someone who I don't know by the name of Sean Jones clicked on his account after I read his comment and realized that he's an educator in the real estate investor space, which that's a dime a dozen, I admit. He said, mind your own business. Well, Sean, number one, as an educator, turning a blind eye to when someone in the, real estate investing community, is being indicted on something, I think that that can be a very slippery slope to say, I don't care about ethics, and I don't care around doing things the right way. And when, charges are being filed, I think that's important to say, like, when you're saying, don't pay attention to that, or like, keep out of that. I think that's a very slippery slope. And so to you, I say, go have the day you deserve, sir. Um, but on the other hand, I will go mind my business. I will go reflect on all of this and say, hey, I want to make sure that this is not something that's entered in my world, right? And that is why case studies like this are important to understand. And so, guys, there's tons of more information that exists out there, that is going to come out from this stuff. And if that's something that you want to go deep dive, go do that. But I want to encourage you to not run away from learning from situations like this, to improve. And so to you, I say, let's go mind our own business, in the sense of let's not just be nosy, gossips, whatever, and judgmental. Let's not do that at all, right? Like, that's not the point here. Let's be critical students and learn. And then from there, let's go ahead and take that and then mind own business, self-reflect and say, how can I be a better investor? Because how you do real estate matters. Not gonna lie, guys, I didn't enjoy making this video, but I did feel it was important, and I think a lot of people will not want to speak to some of this stuff, about the fact that people get it wrong, right? So I hope this was helpful for you. Until next time, you guys. Until next time. Thank you.